Hello, my name is Emily Gray. I'm the Managing Director of Ipsos in Scotland. Ipsos is one of Britain's largest research companies, and we've been publishing opinion polls for more than 50 years. So here are some tips on understanding polls going into a general election. To begin with, if you look at the history of opinion polls, overall their track record is pretty good, despite the challenges of getting it right. So at the last general election in 2019, Ipsos's final poll was accurate to within 0.7 percentage points for every single party's share of the vote. And there were several other polls that were as good, or almost as good. But polls are not magic. In the first place, polls can't predict the future, and they don't try to. They measure what people are thinking at the moment they answer the questions. And given how eventful politics can be, particularly Scottish politics, things might happen between now and election day which will make people change their minds about how they're going to vote. So if anybody tells you the Ipsos poll predicts this or that, they are wrong. That is not what polls do, and it's not what polls are for. So remember that polls can only measure approximately. They have a margin of error because they only include a sample of the public. That's a simple law of statistics. For most opinion polls, that margin is plus or minus 4 percentage points. In other words, if the poll says that a party is on 36%, that means they could be as high as 40% or as low as 32%, although it's more likely to be nearer the middle. And remember that because the margin of error for each party is 4 points, the lead could be out by as much as 8 points. Of course, it's not ideal, but we don't have anything better. There is no practical way of finding out what the public thinks, except a poll that asks a sample of them to tell us. So we have to put up with the margin of error, and to also understand that small differences between polls may not mean anything. Remember too that our first past the post electoral system means that knowing each party's share of the vote does not tell us how many seats they will win. Scotland has a lot of marginal seats, and that means that even small changes in vote share for each party can make a big difference to the final result. There are ways of making seat estimates, either by using uniform swing or something more sophisticated. But those projections are not part of what a normal poll measures. So our job as pollsters is to get the shares of the vote right, not to translate that into seats. To measure seats, you need a different kind of poll, bigger and more complex. The best of these is probably the exit poll, directed by a team of academics, which we carry out for the BBC, ITV and Sky. The exit poll is usually extremely accurate in calling the number of seats each party will win, but that's not available until after the end of voting at 10 o'clock on election night. But polls don't just measure the horse race, so who is behind, who is ahead. There is much richer detail available if you look behind the headlines. The polls find out what are the issues that matter to the voters and which parties they think they have the best policies on each. What do they think about the leaders? Do the debates matter? And much more. And you can get all of this detail from the Ipsos website, along with the exact questions we used, when the poll was carried out, how many people took part, and so on. And the same is true for every other reputable polling company. So all polling companies will use the methodology that they believe will provide the most accurate results. And that involves taking various decisions about how the poll is conducted. At Ipsos, we keep our methods under continual review. So in Scotland, we currently poll by telephone, using a mix of mobile and landline numbers. We don't weight the data by how people tell us they voted at the most recent general election or Scottish Parliament election, or indeed how they voted in the 2014 independence referendum or the 2016 EU referendum. But other polling companies will take different decisions. So for example, conducting their polls online or weighting their data by how people have voted previously. And for all reputable polling companies, you'll be able to get details of the methods they use on their website. And finally, remember, politicians don't actually lie nearly as much as people think they do. But one lie they do tell is that they don't pay any attention to opinion polls. They're paying just as much attention as the rest of us.